And we're back. Mike's going to start us off with his most difficult problem he has ever overcome, game development-wise.
Well, there are a lot of difficult problems that I can't overcome, and I don't overcome. But one somewhat difficult problem, well, difficult to me, that I did manage to overcome, was pathfinding. Back, when I was getting ready to start on Loadrunner X, right, I didn't know how to do pathfinding at that point. Not really, I had attempted it, because, even back further, I would do RPGs that would obviously flame out brilliantly, or not so much. I would try to put pathfinding in them, and, I would, set up test levels, and I would just have a big open area with one little wall, and I would stand on one side, and the bad guy would be on the other, and I'd want to make my algorithm, I'd want to be able to make it so he could find his way over. And obviously the simplest pathfinding algorithm is get your distance X, distance Y, and take the shorter, close the gap. And so I would start with things like that, and then I would try to make it so if the guy who were walking around, if he hit a wall, then he would, I believe the way I would do it oftentimes was if he hits a wall, then he moves 3 to 5 tiles to one direction or the other, perhaps depending on which side the player is on across the wall. And then he would just try to go again. Obviously, this is kind of bad. So, and then, I don't know. I would try things and this and that, but I just never, I never figured it. I never had the right approach, obviously. So, flash forward to whenever I was getting ready to start in this Loadrunner X game, which I first started because I just wanted to play some Loadrunner, and I couldn't find a version that really satisfied me. They'd be too fast or too slow, or you couldn't skip levels, or you couldn't save your game. Anyway, so I thought, well, I'd like to make a Loadrunner game. I really would. But darn it, how the heck am I going to make the bad guys work? So I thought, well, what I need to do first, before I even start this game, is figure out pathfinding. So what I did was I just set up, a little console application, and, I just created an array, and 1 meant path and 2 meant stone. I looked at the resources online at kind of like the A star, A asterisk, asterisk, and, I looked at them, and I thought, I pretty much got them conceptually. I dumbed it down a little for my version. They would take into account more information than I felt I really, truly needed. But anyway, I would look at it, and so I thought, all right, I think I conceptually understand it, and then I implemented it, in this little console application. Got it to the point where it could find blah, 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 blah. And then I started making the game, threw it in the game, and it took about 30 seconds to find a path. So then I started working on it, and how the heck I'm supposed to optimize all this nonsense. And, I've gotten it. I got it to the point where it worked in the game pretty well, even if the game never really took off like I hoped. But I was really impressed. Well, I don't know, impressed. I was really happy with how connivingly, maniacally evil the bad guys were. They were pretty tough.
So, why was it the most difficult thing you've ever overcome? Just because pathfinding was, for the longest time, something that was over your head, and you just couldn't ever get it to work right?
Yeah, that's probably it. It's one of the things that stands out as the type of thing that for quite a while I was not able to, really properly implement. Well, I can't say I properly implemented it as of yet even, but, I was able to implement it in a fashion that made it work and made it fun to play. And that's the important part. As long as it's fun, then you've done a good job. And it runs without taking 30 seconds to find your path. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. It was just something that I would say struggled with, but I never actually had an active struggle. It was more of a, I can't do that struggle. But, it was something I was... What?
All you needed was a tutorial on A-Star. Done.
Yeah,
A-Star
well...
does. It's exceptionally good for what it is.
Yeah.
You did, but, I also needed a reason.
To actually implement it?
Yeah, when I was working on the little RPGs, I had a reason. I did want the bad guy to be able to find you. But, I get, maybe in that case, there's a lot more to an RPG than the bad guy finding you, whereas in Loadrunner...
That's all it is.
That's not all it is. It's very belittling to my beloved Loadrunner.
Well, if the bad guys can't find you, it's not much of a game, is it?
Digging. It's about digging and getting the gold. But yes, the bad guys being able to find you plays a pivotal role in the whole game. So that was definitely an impetus.
So difficult, my friend. How about you, Kenny?
We're just talking about how difficult a subject this can be to answer. I've had so many things that I've had to do that seemed really, really hard at the time, and in retrospect, when I'm looking at them now, it's like, well, I really didn't have that hard of a time with it, or oh, that's so trivial, man. I can't say that. That'll embarrass me, but.
Is your biggest accomplishment going to turn out to be thinking of a topic for this?
Damn close. No, I wanted to do a couple of things that were concrete, like some little hacks and stuff I did, but those are actually kind of boring. I want to talk about something that was a little bit amorphous. The irony to it is that I spent so much time planning this that when I actually got down to sitting around coding it, it turned out to be a lot easier than I thought it was going to be because I made too much work for myself, and that was where the difficulty came from. And when I was working on the artificial intelligence for my little tactical RPG project, Cry Havoc, I sat down and initially I said, okay, I need to figure out how to do AI because I've really never done AI before. The artificial stupidity that was present in like my previous games, like Frenetic Plus, was very, very random, and they tended to do really weird shit because they weren't programmed very well, and they just had a basic set of behaviors with a random mutator in there, so they would do funky shit every now and then and surprise you. So I wanted to get away from that and actually come up with.
You say it was random, but did you find it effective in making for a fun game?
Yeah, sometimes it would actually surprise me a little bit, and it might have been a bug. I'm actually going to chalk this up as a bug, but one time I had like an enemy right in front of me, and the enemies were smart enough to where they could, if you laid down like a field of fire, they would actually start moving away from it instead of moving into it. And so I laid down this field of fire in front of an enemy right in front of me, and the sumbitch does a loop-to-loop right in front of me. And I didn't program that, so it's obviously a bug or something, but it was so neat I just left it in.
Anyway, well, what I wanted to ask after that was, if, seeing as you felt it provided a good challenge, a fun experience, why did you feel that you really needed? Why were you so compelled to, better it?
Well, Frenetic Plus is a very, very simple game. It was a shooter. You aim at stuff, you shoot. Either you hit them and they explode, or you don't hit them and they eventually kick your ass. This is going from an action game to a strategic or a tactical, if you want to split hairs, a project. So it's kind of like, I always likened it to more like chess, because you, instead of having thousands of different troop combinations and all, you really, when the game's finished, you're going to end up with small teams of relatively familiar types